Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So we are going to have a look at those horses that we've highlighted so far this season for the Cheltenham Festival Handicaps. Have a look to see whether any of them I don't like anymore. There's a couple that I don't think will be running in the races that I've suggested. And talking about those that I have highlighted and whether some of them I still am keen on, and there's quite a lot that I still am really keen on. There's also a few in here that I don't think will turn up, but I honestly think it's the best option for them. But let's get on with it. Let's start with the Ultima handicap. There's two that I've highlighted for this race so far this season, and they are Thunder Rock, who is between 10s and 14s, and Indigo Breeze, who is also between 10 and 14 to 1. So let's go over them. Thunder Rock, why did I highlight him? He's currently rated 149. He's actually owned by the McNeil family, or jointly by the McNeil family, who sponsor the race. So it'd definitely be a race that they would like to win. They've also got 3 under through 5 who would have a good chance, you would imagine. But the last 2 runs he's been running in graded races at Cheltenham and Sandown, and he's finished 3rd. And I think, for me, that suggests that there's no point running in the grade 1 races at Cheltenham. There's no point running in the 2.5 or the 3 mile grade 1s, because he's going to find 1 or 2, probably more than that, 3 or 4 too good, and finish 4th or 5th, which for me, for a horse that looks well handicapped, is a bit of a waste to just run round and finish 5th in a grade 1. I think they should step him up in trip and go for the Ultima. If you have a look at his run at Cheltenham over 2.5 mile, he was off the bridle a lot earlier than some of his rivals, and yet ran on quite strongly. Didn't quite do the same at Sandown, but different course, different direction. I think the 3 miles will really bring out the best in him. I think the plate might be a bit competitive in terms of too many horses, too many... it just happened all a bit quick for him, the 2.5 with all those horses. I think the 3 mile will definitely suit him. They'll go a bit slower earlier on and he'll be able to keep up. And yeah, so I'm really keen on Thunder Rock still. I think it's a great... I wouldn't be putting you off for having a bet now if you haven't already backed him between 10 and 14. So you get non or no bet just in case he ran in a different race where you can get 12s, non-run and no bet. If he turns up at 12... If he turns up for this race and you've got 12s, he won't be 12s on the day, he'll be single figures. The other horse that I wanted to bring back to your talk again about is Indigo Breeze. So I highlighted Indigo Breeze after he finished 2nd to the Real Whacker. The Real Whacker has obviously won again since and is now rated 153. Indigo Breeze has an Irish mark of 133. Well, if we gave that the Irish penalty, so we'll go up, I don't know, £6-7, we'll go up to 140. It's still £13 lower than the Real Whacker, and yet he wasn't beaten that far, probably suggesting it was a very good run over 3 mile at Cheltenham. That's got to be where they come back for this Ultima. Again, he was a little bit disappointing at Leopardstown. He didn't get the clearest of runs at Leopardstown over a trip that was probably too short for him. He probably does want this 3 mile trip, and with that in mind, stepping back up to 3 mile in a handicap, I think he'd go very, very close. And again, you can actually get 14 to 1 no bet about him. And I don't think I think you'd have 2 great chances if Thunder Rock and Indigo Breeze were your 2 bets, non-run and no bet. And if they both turned up, I think they'd both go very, very close. Moving on to the Fred Winter, or the Boodles Juvenile Handicap Hurdle. I've highlighted 3 for this in the past. We'll start off with Calico, who's currently rated 112 in Ireland. I don't think he's going to get in. Last year he had to be rated 122 to get in, even with the Irish, or the allowance, or the penalty from their Irish mark. That's still only, 119, 120. That's not going to get in. So I think... unless they find a race quickly for Calico, they're not going to end up getting in with Calico. The second one I want to remind you about is Perseus Way. I highlighted Dixon Cove when Dixon Cove finished 2nd to Comfort Zone at Chepstow, and said keep an eye on Perseus Way as well. Now Dixon Cove, unfortunately, suffered a career-ending injury. She's okay, and she will be. I believe she's off to be a broodmare. So she's okay, but she won't be running again. With that in mind, the horse just behind, Perseus Way, who was third to Comfort Zone, who's since won again, and Perseus Way is also rated that 125 mark. Has come out and won at Huntingdon just to get a bit more experience, and I think off 125 Perseus Way could go very, very close at Cheltenham in the Boodles Juvenile Handicap Hurdle, and it's currently a bit bigger price than I thought. 12s and 14s, 16s, no one doing non-runner no bet at 16s, but 14 to 1 I don't think is a bad price at all for Perseus Way. I think Perseus Way would run a really big race there. And the third one I want to talk about, we've mentioned him a couple of times recently, Sir Alan. He won the race at the weekend as we expected, which has had the winner of that, the 3 of the last 4 winners of the race at Naas have gone on to win the Boodles Juvenile Handicap Hurdle. We highlighted it before the race because if he did win, he was going to shorten. He did win, and he did shorten as expected. He's now 8s and 10s. I think he was 14s and 16s on the day that we suggested you back him then. Moving on to the Coral Cup, there's 6 here that I've highlighted, but I don't know who's going to run in this because I think 1, 2, 3 of them could go elsewhere. In fact, just looking at my list, I think 3 could go elsewhere and 2 might not even run. So that would only actually leave us with the 1. But let's go through all 6 and I'll suggest why I think they could run here and who I think will run here. So the first one is Mai Tai. Now, this 2.5 mile trip is exactly what Mai Tai wants, and you can see he's between 8s and 14s. I actually think if you don't mind tying some of your money up, as in hoping that if they don't run you get your money back for non-runner no bet, I actually think Mai Tai at 14s isn't a bad price, non-runner no bet. I have a feeling though, obviously with Lorcan Murta riding last time, Lorcan Murta or Lorcan Williams? Lorcan Murta or Lorcan Williams? I always get them two mixed up. Lorcan Murta riding last time, I think it could have been you're going to ride him in the Martin Pipe. He's rated 145, which gets him in the Martin Pipe. So I think we'll see Mai Tai in the Martin Pipe, but just in case he ran in the Coral Cup, 14 to 1 probably isn't a bad price at all. I think he would run well in the Martin Pipe as well. He's only ran once over 2.5 mile over hurdles, and that was when he finished second to 3 Stripe Life in a Grade 1. They tried him over 3 mile in a handicap at the beginning of the season, far too keen. They then tried him over 2 mile, and probably given a poor ride. I think he was given a bit too much to do. But I think they'll end up in the Martin Pipe, but just in case, 14 to 1 isn't a bad price at all for a non-runner no bet. The second horse I wanted to talk about is Langadan. Now, I hope Langadan runs in the Coral Cup and not the Martin Pipe. Obviously, he's been to the Martin Pipe twice. He finished second at Galopin des Champs, and then he was brought down last year. I'm hoping they go, we'll give up with that. Let's get Harry on board, and let's go and win the Coral Cup. He's only rated 141, which is £4 higher than when winning at Aintree. Obviously, he was ridiculously well handicapped that day. And for the Coral Cup, Langadan is currently, again, 14 to 1, non-runner, no bet. I don't think that's a bad price again, with the potential that he actually ends up in the Martin Pipe. If he does run in this, again, I think he goes very close. Langadan and Mai Tai would both go close, in my opinion. The third horse, I don't think this will run here. Ashdale Bob. Ashdale Bob finished second in this race last year, off 152. Now, he's already rated 152 in Ireland, so if he came back, he'd probably be rated 159, 158, 159 in England. So that would probably put me off him a little bit, but I have a feeling they'll probably turn up in the stayers, particularly as it's not clear who the big one is in the stayers. So it looks quite an open race. I think Ashdale Bob will end up in the stayers. Campron, this could be the one, the only one of the 6 that actually runs here. Finished 4th in this race last year, off 114, is dropped down to 138. Did try chasing for a bit, was a bit of a nightmare. Has been all over the place since over hurdles. But yeah, it could be one of these JP plots after it didn't work over fences that he might have been aiming to get his handicap mark down. He has, as we know, he finished 4th last year and he wants better going. He got heavy going last year. He doesn't want that. He wants good ground. And to be honest, even the last couple when he was disappointing at Cheltenham back in January, that was on soft going. As soon as he gets good going, or good to soft going at worst, potentially at the Cheltenham Festival, I think he can go very close off that £2 lower mark. He only went off 10-1 last year. So he clearly had a chance last year and the ground went against him. He's currently, I think he's quite a big price at the moment. Let's just search for him. Oops. Cambrond. So, Bet365 are actually going 20-1 non-run no bet. I think that's a great bet. You can get 16s at most other bookies, non-run no bet, which I don't think is a bad price either. But yeah, Cambrond could be the only one of these 6 that I'm going to talk about that actually turns up here. But I don't mind using non-runner no bets to end up with 3 or 4 in the race sometimes at odds I think are bigger than what they should be with good chances. The next one I want to talk about, I don't think connections will want to do this, but Bob Olinger. Bob Olinger in the Coral Cup. He's currently rated 151 in Ireland, so he might be rated 150, 159. Let's just look at his form over 2.5 mile. Not 3 mile, not 2 mile. 2.5 mile. So we've got a first, 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 we've got a second. So that second was his most recent decentish run. Let's see who he was beaten by. Was it a good effort? Well, it was in a grade 2, behind Home by the Lee, in front of Ashdale Bob, in front of Flooring Porter. For me, the 2.5 mile trip is what he wants, and I'm a big fan of these graded horses in handicaps. Imagine if they could find a £7 claiming jockey to put on Bob Olinger. I think he'd go really, really close in this, to be honest. I don't even know if there's a price for him. There might be. There is, I mean, 16-1 non-runner no bet for Bob Olinger in the Coral Cup, I think is a great bet. Do I think he'll run there? Probably not. If he ran there, what chance would I give him? I'd be disappointed if he was at the front 3. I really would. Bob Olinger, I'd be probably, out of all of those I've mentioned, Mai Tai, Lankadan, Ashdale Bob, Campron, Bob Olinger, and I'm going to talk about Indefatigable. If all of those ran in the race, Bob Olinger would be the one I'd be most keen on out of all 6 of those off their respective marks. I really like Bob Olinger. He just wants 2.5 mile, and if you drop him into a handicap now, I think they could really surprise. He's a Ballymore winner. Over course and distance, yeah, I really like him for that. I don't think it's a bad bet, non-runner, no bet at all. The final horse I want to talk about for the Coral Cup, as I said, I have a feeling Indefatigable won't run here. Indefatigable is currently rated 139, which is £6 lower than when winning the Martin Pipe. What we've got to remember and look at is how has she done over 2.5 mile in handicaps. So, she won back here in March 2020 in a 2.5 mile handicap. Since then, she's had one other run in a handicap, and that was at Cheltenham when beating a neck by Martello Sky off 145. Drop her back into a handicap off a £6 lower mark than both of these 2 efforts. Surely she runs a really big race. But does she run in the Coral Cup or the Martin Pipe? Having won the Martin Pipe before, I have a feeling she might run in the Martin Pipe again, especially off 139. It's not like she's turning up off 145 and being near the top of the handicap. She would be, £5 or £6 lower than the top rated horse. So I think she'll probably end up in the Martin Pipe as well. But, you know, as I said, I wouldn't mind having, or I don't mind having a few bets in this race. You can't actually get a price for Indefatigable in the Coral Cup at the moment. But when she does appear, I mean, I got caught by her a few years ago. I advised her in the Coral Cup and she ended up running in the Martin Pipe and winning. And I didn't advise her in the Martin Pipe, which was a bit silly. So, moving on to the Grand Annual. There's 4 here, but I think one will definitely run, 1 won't, and 2 might. So the one that I think definitely will is Andy Dufresne. Finished second in this race last year. That came off a mark of 155. Currently, in Ireland, his mark is 152. And to be honest, after finishing second at Cheltenham, he's not really done anything since. So I don't believe the handicapper can justify putting him on a higher mark this year than he was last year. He didn't win last year. He's disappointed the last twice at Fairyhouse and Leopardstown. But if we have a look, he's also pulled up at Fairyhouse. He's finished 3rd at Leopardstown when well beaten. He doesn't run well at Fairyhouse or Leopardstown. We know he can run well at Cheltenham. I actually think he's got a great chance, and I think this has been the plan all season for him. He is currently... Where is he? He shouldn't be too far down. Here he is. He is 16 to 1 non-runner no bet, which I think you might as well take because whilst I think he runs there, he's 16 to 1 as well. You can get the biggest price, non-runner no bet. So I actually think Andy Dufresne is quite a good bet each non-runner no bet, but I do think he will run there. The second horse, I would like to see Ferrero Bamboo run in the Grand Annual. Good form at Cheltenham, 2/3, including behind Editor de Gite and Cheddleton. This one back here in December 2021. Last year finished 3rd behind Andy Dufresne and Global Citizen, in front of Editor de Gite. And was never travelling and then ran on quite strongly. The problem is, will he get in off 135? He's dropped in the handicap, despite, you know, not running that bad. 2nd, 4th, 3rd and 4th. They're not terrible runs. But he's dropped in the handicap to a mark of 135. Last year, I think 136 was the lowest rated horse to get in. So that would be a concern if you are backing Ferrero Bamboo. If he does get in, though, the fact that he's £6 lower, good form at Cheltenham, probably didn't want that heavy going. I don't think he wants that heavy going, despite having won at Lingfield. It was a bit of a nothing race that day. I think he's got a great chance. I have a feeling that no one is... you can get non-runner no bet. And you can get 25s. What's this one here? 25s. If you can get Betfred 33 to 1, non-runner no bet. If he gets in, surely he's got a good chance off that lower handicap mark. So yeah, I don't mind that at all with the non-runner no bet concession. The next horse I wanted to talk about, I'd been trying to suggest that Illrodoto was going to run in the Grand Annual. Back again after going off, what did he go off last year? 18 to 1 on heavy going. He didn't want that ground. I didn't think he'd been getting home over 2.5 mile. They put some cheap pieces on and he did get home. So he won't be running in the Grand Annual now. It's as simple as that, I think. And the final one that I did want to talk about for this race that I have highlighted before is Colonel Mustard. Obviously, he was 3rd in the county hurdle off 140. He's currently got a handicap mark over fences of 136. If he gets, you know, a few pounds to 140, 142, he would definitely have a chance over fences in a Grand Annual in a handicap. Obviously, his 3rd at Cheltenham behind Stateman and First Street is very good form. You know, that they're both much higher rated now. Colonel Mustard off a similar mark in a chase would surely go close. Let's see what price he is. Colonel. You can get 14 to 1 non-runner no bet. I don't think that's a bad price at all. You know, if you backed all 3 of them, Andy Dufresne, Ferrero Bamboo and Colonel Mustard, I think you've got a bit of everything. Not bad prices. You've got 14s, 16s and 33 to 1. I think you'd have 3 really good chances there come Grand Annual Day. Final race I want to talk about in this video, we'll do the second lot of handicaps in the next video, is the Pertemps Final. And I've got 4 down here. Unfortunately, 1 won't be running because it has died. But let's go through those 4. The first one is Maxim. Now, do not give up on Maxim. If you backed Maxim for the Pertemps Final, don't give up on him. Let me just show you his R figure 2 runs ago. A 166.6 when winning at Leopardstown. Suggested that if he ran that again here, he would have won. Now, unfortunately, he got no run down the inside. He went off 7-4, really well backed, got no run, and ended up 12th. Totally forgive him that run. If you forgive him that run, he should not be 6s and 7s. He should be still the 7-2 favourite. I really believe that. And he is probably the one to beat still, if he gets a clear run. The second horse that I want to talk about is the Bossos Oscar. Obviously, he was our horse to follow a couple of years ago with the Pertemps Final in mind. Unfortunately for me, they went and won at Turles. They then finished second at Navan and second at Leopardstown before turning up at Cheltenham off like a £10-12 higher mark and finishing second in the final. Really annoying. However, since then, things have gone wrong. He's disappointed quite a few times. But he did win just 3 runs ago. He finished 4th at Cork 2 runs ago, and then last time out, they dropped him back to Handicap Company. They put him in a Pertemps qualifier in England, and he finished 3rd. Now, he ran off 1-4-2 that day. When he ran at Cheltenham in the Pertemps Final, he ran off 1-5-1, a £9 higher mark. If he was to run, if he'd run off 1-4-2 that day, in the Pertemps Final in 2020, he would have won. He would have beaten Mrs. Milner. 2020 or 2021? 2021 even. So it's not that long ago, really. On the day at Musselburgh, he drifted from 10-1 out to 40-1, probably suggesting he was not in the race to win. He was in the race simply to qualify. He's got himself qualified. I think he goes really, really close. What have I written down there? Oh, yeah. He should. I think he goes really well. Somebody asked me after we ran, what do you think of the 14s? Is that a fair enough price? And I said, yeah. And I gave some reasons. And without him even running again since, he's drifted. He's shortened to a top price of 10s, 8s in places. I think he goes really, really close. The next horse, and the final one that I think might run, is Ashdown Lad. This is all about where he runs probably at the weekend. He's qualified for the Pertemps Final, and I think they'll be wanting to aim him at the Grand National, personally. But could they pick up a Pertemps Final on the way? Very possibly. Interestingly, he finished second last time out in a Pertemps qualifier, having already qualified at Aintree the time before. That race at Aintree has worked out well. And I think last time out when he was second in a race at Warwick. He could run at Haydock in the Rendlesham at the weekend. And if he ran there and then ran at Cheltenham, his last 3 runs will have been at the exact three races that Third Wind ran in last year. Third Wind ran in a qualifier at Warwick, got himself qualified, then went to the Rendlesham, finished 3rd. That's where I hope Ashdown Lad would finish. Then turned up in the Pertemps Final and won. And I think that would be a perfect plan again for Ashdown Lad. So I hope he ends up in the Rendlesham, the graded race at Haydock at the weekend, not another Pertemps qualifier, and not over fences. It'd be very, very interesting. Ashdown Lad is currently 16s, 20s, you can get 16-1, 25-1. Do you know what? I actually think at 25-1, that's not a bad price to have a go, even without the non-runner, no bet concession. Because I think if he does turn up, I think he'll go very, very close. I know there's, I've highlighted 3 there. I think they would all run really big races in the race. The one who, unfortunately, is not going to make the race is Eric Bloodaxe, who finished second to Maximum in a Pertemps qualifier, but has unfortunately died since then. So they were my horses for the Ultima, the Boodles Juvenile Handicap Hurdle, the Coral Cup, the Grand Annual, and the Pertemps Final. The following lot of handicaps will be in the next video.